The colony ship Horizon's dream was supposed to bring 300 humans to a new home. They had traveled for 2 years through the darkness of space. They had dreamed of green fields and blue skies on a planet far from Earth. But those dreams ended when the warships appeared. There were insect-like creatures that stood 3 meters tall. They had conquered 17 star systems. They looked at other species the way humans looked at insects. To them, every other race was either useful or worthless. There was no middle ground. When their warships surrounded the human vessel, the captain tried to surrender peacefully. They did not care about peace. They boarded the ship and began sorting the humans like products in a factory. Watched everything from behind a cargo container. She was 13 years old with long black hair and eyes that had seen too much sadness for someone so young. Her legs had not worked since she was 7. A transport accident on Earth had damaged her spine. She moved using a simple wheelchair that her father had built for her. Her mother had died in the first minutes of the attack. A soldier had shot her when she tried to protect another family's child, had watched her mother fall. She had wanted to scream, but her father had covered her mouth and pulled her into hiding. Was a ship engineer. He was a quiet man with strong hands and a gentle heart. He had raised alone for 6 years after his wife's death. Wait, no. His wife had just died today. The old sadness was from something else. Had always told that her legs did not define her. He had taught her to read star maps. He had taught her mathematics and engineering. He had told her that her mind was her greatest gift. Now he held her hand as the soldiers moved through the cargo bay, pulling humans from their hiding spots. "Stay quiet," whispered. "Stay very quiet." But they found them anyway. 2 soldiers grabbed and threw him to the ground. Another soldier looked at in her wheelchair. It made a clicking sound with its mouth. In the translator devices all humans wore, the sound became words. "This one is broken, useless for labor." A larger approached. The other soldiers stepped back with respect. This was Commander, the leader of the invasion force. He was taller than the others, with darker shell and eyes that showed no emotion. Studied for a long moment. Then he made the clicking sound that was laughter among his kind. "The void serpent has not been fed this month," said. "This broken creature will make good entertainment for our guests." Understood the words. He screamed and fought against the soldiers holding him. He was a peaceful man who had never hurt anyone. But in that moment, he became something wild. He broke free and ran toward, reaching for her. A soldier hit him with an electric weapon, fell to the ground, his body shaking. He tried to get up. They hit him again and again. "Father!" screamed. She tried to get out of her wheelchair, tried to crawl to him. But a soldier grabbed her chair and began pushing her away. "Take the broken one to the pit," ordered. "The other humans will watch. They will learn what happens to those who are useless to the Empire." Was taken through the corridors of her own ship, past the bodies of people she had known her whole life. She was loaded onto a transport vessel with other prisoners. But while the others were taken to labor camps, she was taken somewhere else. The capital city of Prime was beautiful in a terrible way. The buildings were tall and made of black stone. The streets were clean and perfect. Everything showed the power of the Empire. Everything said that resistance was pointless. The pit was located beneath the main plaza. It was an ancient place, older than the Empire itself. They had built their capital here because of what lived in the darkness below. Was brought to a platform above a massive hole in the ground. Hundreds of aliens had gathered to watch. She saw species she had never seen before. Tall, furry creatures that must be the traders. Massive warriors with 4 arms that were probably the strange beings made of crystal that floated in the air. None of them objected. None of them said this was wrong. They just watched with curiosity, like people watching an interesting show. Commander stepped forward and addressed the crowd. "Today we show our guests the price of weakness. The humans are a new species. They are soft. They are fragile. And this one is even more broken than the rest. Let her fate be a lesson to all who think they can challenge The platform beneath began to lower into the darkness. She did not scream. She had no more screams left. Her mother was dead. Her father was hurt and far away. She was alone and going to die. What was the point of screaming? The darkness swallowed her. The light from above became smaller and smaller until it was just a tiny dot. Then it was gone. Sat in complete blackness. She could hear water dripping somewhere. She could smell something old and strange. And she could hear breathing. Something very large was breathing in the darkness with her. Two eyes opened in the black. They were enormous and burned with violet fire. They looked at her with an intelligence that she could feel pressing against her mind. The void serpent had awakened, and it was coming toward her. The creature moved through the darkness like smoke. Could not see its body, but she could feel its size. It was massive. The ground shook slightly with each step it took. Its breath was warm and smelled like old fire and something sweet she could not name. The violet eyes came closer. They were each larger than her entire body. In their light, she could finally see parts of the creature, scales that looked like black metal, teeth longer than her arms, a head that could swallow a transport ship whole. His heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. Her hands were shaking. Every part of her body told her to run, to hide, to do something. But her legs did not work. She could not run even if she wanted to. So she sat in her wheelchair and looked at the monster that was going to kill her. "Just do it," she said. Her voice was small in the massive cavern. "If you are going to kill me, just do it. I am tired of being afraid." The creature stopped. For a long moment, nothing happened. The violet eyes studied her with strange intensity, could feel something touching her thoughts. It was like a gentle pressure against her mind, like someone knocking on a door. She did not know why, but she opened that door. Images flooded into her head. She saw a world of fire and storms, where great winged beings flew through burning clouds. She saw these creatures playing among the stars, swimming through the space between worlds like fish through water. They were beautiful and powerful and free. Then she saw ships. Ships. She saw nets made of energy and weapons that made the great beings scream. She saw cages and chains and needles filled with drugs. She saw centuries of imprisonment, of being poked and studied and starved. She saw loneliness so deep it made her chest hurt. Was crying. She did not know when she had started. The tears just came, running down her face and dripping onto her useless legs. "They did this to you," she whispered. "They caught you and locked you up and made you into a monster for their entertainment." The creature made a sound. It was not a roar or a growl. It was something softer, something sad. More images came. Saw hundreds of sacrifices over the years. People of many species, thrown into the pit to die. She saw the creature killing them because it was angry, because it was in pain, because it had forgotten how to be anything but a weapon. But she also felt its shame. It had not wanted to become this. It had not wanted to be a monster. "I understand," said. "I know what it feels like when your body becomes a prison, when you cannot be what you are supposed to be." She looked down at her legs. They had not moved in 6 years. The doctors on Earth had said she would never walk again. She had spent so many nights crying about it, hating her own body, feeling trapped in flesh that did not work. "My name is," she said. "What is your name?" The creature pressed another image into her mind. She saw the beings of fire and storm again. She heard a word that was not really a word. It was more like a feeling, a concept. It meant hope for the future, light after darkness, morning after long night. Said, translating the feeling into a name from her own culture. "Your name is." The creature seemed surprised. Perhaps no one had asked its name in centuries. Perhaps no one had ever seen it as something more than a monster. Lowered his massive head to the ground. His eye was now its level. She could see herself reflected in that violet fire. She looked so small, so weak, so broken. But she did not feel weak anymore. Slowly, carefully, she reached out her hand. Her fingers touched the scales above his eye. They were warm and smooth, like polished stone left in the sun. "I am not going to hurt you," she said, "and I do not think you are going to hurt me." Days passed, at least thought they were days. There was no light in the cavern except for his eyes. She slept against his warm body. She ate the strange moss that grew on the cave walls. It tasted like nothing she had ever eaten, but it kept her alive. Showed her more of his memories. He was not a serpent at all. His kind were called. They had traveled between stars before they even existed. They were beings of psychic power and cosmic fire, but they had hunted them almost to extinction. Was one of the last. Shared her memories, too. She showed him Earth with its blue oceans and green forests. She showed him her mother's face and her father's gentle hands. She showed him the accident that had taken her legs and the hard years after. She showed him that humans were also fragile, also often broken, but they did not give up. On the third day, showed her something important. An image of his neck, where a piece of metal was buried in his scales. A device that pumped drugs into his blood and blocked his psychic powers. A chain that kept him weak and confused. Looked at the image for a long time. "I can try to remove it," she said, "but I cannot walk, I would have to climb." Lowered himself as flat as possible against the cave floor. He was still enormous, a mountain of scales and ancient power, but his eye looked at her with something that might have been hope. No one had tried to help him in 300 years. Until now. Pulled herself out of her wheelchair. Her arms were strong from years of lifting her own body. When your legs do not work, your arms learn to do everything. She had climbed into her bed, into chairs, into transport vehicles. She had never climbed a dragon before. But there is a first time for everything. The first attempt was a disaster. Scales were smooth and she could not grip them properly. She made it only a few meters before she slipped and fell. The ground was hard and cold. Her elbow was bleeding. She lay there for a moment, looking up at the darkness above. "This is stupid," she said to herself. "I am a crippled girl trying to climb a creature the size of a building. I am going to die here." But then she thought of her father, was somewhere above, probably being worked to death in a mine. He thought his daughter was dead. He had lost his wife and his child on the same day. What kind of pain was he feeling right now? Pulled herself up and tried again. The second attempt was better. She found places where the scales overlapped, tiny gaps where she could hook her fingers. She moved slowly, carefully, like climbing a cliff made of living metal. Her arms burned with effort. Her fingers cramped. Sweat dripped down her face even though the cave was cool. She made it halfway up's neck before she fell again. This time she hit a ridge of scales that cut her leg. She could not feel the pain because she could not feel her legs at all. But she saw the blood. It was strange to bleed from a part of your body that felt like it belonged to someone else. Made a soft sound. Through their mental connection, she felt his worry. "I am fine," she said. "I just need to rest." She slept against his body, exhausted. In her dreams, she saw her mother again, had been a teacher back on Earth. She had always told that the most important thing in life was to never stop trying. "You will fail many times," her mother used to say. "Failure is not the end. Giving up is the end. As long as you keep trying, you have not lost." Woke up with new determination. The third attempt took her 4 hours. Her progress was measured in centimeters. Every muscle in her body screamed for rest. Her fingers were raw and bleeding. Several times she almost fell, catching herself at the last moment with desperate strength. But she did not give up. When she finally reached his neck and saw the device, she almost cried. It was technology, a metal box with tubes going into the dragon's flesh. Her father had taught her about tech during their long journey through space. He had said their machines were powerful but simple. They used force instead of elegance. "I can do this," she whispered. "Father, I can do this." She had no tools except a sharp rock she had found in the cave. She had no training except the lessons her father had given her. But she had something that did not expect. She had patience. For 4 days worked on the device. She studied its structure. She found the weak points. She used the rock to pry at connections and loosen screws. Her fingers bled. Her arms grew so tired she could barely lift them, but she kept working. Stayed perfectly still. Even his breathing became shallow and careful. He knew that one wrong movement could send falling to the ground far below. So he became a statue, a mountain of scales that did not move even when the rock scraped against his flesh. On the 4th day, something cracked. The device broke apart in his hands. Tubes fell away from his neck. Dark liquid that was some kind of drug spilled onto his scales and dripped down into the darkness below. For a moment, nothing happened. Then began to shake. Grabbed onto his scales and held on with all her strength. The dragon was trembling, his whole massive body vibrating like a machine coming to life. Energy began to glow along his scales, violet light that spread from his head down his neck and across his entire body. And then he roared. The sound was not just noise, it was power given voice. It hit the walls of the cave and kept going. It traveled up through the rock and burst into the city above. Buildings shook. Windows cracked. The in the plaza fell to the ground, covering their ears. Underground held on as centuries of drugs left system. His scales began to glow brighter. His body began to grow larger. He had been kept weak and small for so long. Now he was remembering what he truly was. The ceiling of the cave exploded upward. Rock and metal flew into the sky as rose from his prison for the first time in 300 years. His wings spread out, blocking the sun. His body was covered in violet fire that did not burn. And on his chest, protected by a bubble of psychic energy, watched as the world changed forever. Was no longer a prisoner. He was no longer a weapon of the Empire. He was again a being of cosmic fire and ancient power. And he was very, very angry. Above them, Commander stared at the sky with something they rarely felt. Fear. Commander had seen many terrible things in his life. He had led armies against rebellions. He had watched planets burn. He had ordered the deaths of millions. Nothing had ever made him feel fear. Until now. The creature rising from the pit was not the weak, drugged animal he had kept in chains. This was something else, something ancient and powerful beyond anything they had ever faced. Its wings stretched across the sky like storm clouds made of violet fire. Its eyes burned with rage that had been building for 300 years. "Scramble the fleet," screamed into his communication device. "All ships attack now." Warships filled the sky. These were the same ships that had conquered 17 star systems, the same weapons that had broken hundreds of species. They turned their guns on and fired everything they had. Lasers hit the dragon's scales and did nothing. Missiles exploded against his body like insects hitting a window. Energy beams that could melt steel simply bounced away from his psychic shields. Roared again, and the sound alone destroyed the nearest ship. It simply broke apart, metal twisting and tearing as the psychic force ripped through it. The crew did not even have time to scream. Watched from her protective bubble on his chest, she had never seen anything like this. The dragon moved through the fleet like a fire through dry grass. Ships exploded. Soldiers died. The sky was full of smoke and falling metal. And she felt rage through their connection. 300 years of pain and humiliation. 300 years of watching prisoners die, of being forced to kill, of being treated like an animal. All of that anger was coming out now. Part of was glad. They had killed her mother. They had hurt her father. They had tried to feed her to a monster for entertainment. They deserved this. But another part of her felt something different. She saw soldiers running through the streets below. Some of them were trying to fight, but others were just running, trying to escape, trying to survive. She saw buildings falling on aliens who had nothing to do with her capture. She saw fire spreading to areas where prisoners might be held. She said through their connection, "My father might be down there." The dragon paused. His rage was like a storm, but her voice was like a small light in that storm. He turned his massive head to look at her. Through their bond shared an image, her father with his kind eyes and gentle hands, who might be in one of those burning buildings, who was the only family she had left. Understood. He flew lower, his eyes scanning the city. His psychic powers could sense the minds of every living creature below. He searched through thousands of thoughts until he found one that felt familiar. The labor camp was on the edge of the city. Hundreds of humans were kept there, forced to work in factories. When landed beside it, the guards ran away screaming. They did not even try to fight. The dragon used his claws to carefully tear open the building. Inside, humans stared up at him with terror. They had been told the void serpent was coming. They thought they were all going to die. Then they saw. She floated down from his chest in her bubble of psychic energy. The bubble lowered her gently to the ground and disappeared. She was sitting in the dirt, unable to stand, looking very small and very human. "It is okay," she said. "He is not going to hurt you. He is my friend." The humans did not understand. How could this crippled girl be friends with the monster of the pit? How could she control such a creature? But then a man pushed through the crowd. He was thin and dirty and had bruises on his face. He looked like he had not slept in days, but his eyes were full of tears as he ran toward her. Fell to his knees and grabbed his daughter. He held her so tight she could barely breathe. "You are alive. You are alive. How is this possible?" "I made a friend," said simply. "He needed help. I helped him." Looked up at. The dragon lowered his massive head until one violet eye was at their level. Father and daughter reflected in that ancient gaze. "Thank you," whispered to the dragon. "Thank you for protecting my little girl." Made a soft sound. Through felt a thought press into his mind. Not words exactly, but a feeling. The dragon was not thanking, it was who was grateful, had given him something more valuable than freedom. She had given him hope. Above them, the rest of the fleet was gathering. Reinforcements from other worlds. Thousands of ships, the full might of the Empire, coming to destroy this threat. Looked at through their bond, she felt his question. He could fight them. He could destroy them all. His rage was still burning, still hungry for revenge. But what did she want? Thought about her mother, dead on the floor of the colony ship. She thought about all the pain they had caused. She thought about how good it would feel to watch them all burn. Then she thought about something else. "Enough," she said quietly. "The ones who hurt us are dead. Commander is dead. The others are just soldiers following orders. They are afraid, like I was afraid." Tilted his head. His rage was still there, but her calmness was cooling it slowly. "We are not like them," continued. "We do not kill everyone. We stop when it is enough. That is what makes us different." The dragon was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he pulled his fire back into himself. His scales stopped glowing. His body became still. He had chosen to listen to her. Not because she commanded him, but because she was right. The news of the Empire's fall spread across the galaxy like fire. A crippled human child had freed the most dangerous creature in known space. Together, they had destroyed the military of an empire that had ruled for 1,000 years. The aliens who had watched humans get sorted like animals were now watching with very different eyes. The Galactic Council met on the neutral world of. Representatives from 100 species gathered in a massive hall. They had come to discuss what to do about the humans. Some wanted to destroy them before they became a threat. Others wanted to make peace quickly before the dragon returned. Then arrived. She came in a simple hover chair that had built for her from salvaged parts. No army, no weapons, no guards, just a 13-year-old girl with legs that did not work and eyes that had seen too much. Behind her, filling the sky outside the council chamber, was He did not enter. He did not need to. Everyone knew he was there. The council members shifted nervously in their seats. The traders, tall and covered in brown fur, whispered among themselves. The warriors, massive beings with 4 arms, touched their weapons and then thought better of it. The crystalline observers, floating shapes made of living glass, flickered with uncertain light. An old stood up. He was the council speaker, the one who ran these meetings. "You are of Earth," he said, "the one they call the dragon's child." "I am just," she replied. "I am not anyone special. You freed the last from captivity. You ended the empire. You command a creature that could destroy worlds." The speaker's voice was shaking slightly. "And you say you are not special." Looked around the chamber. She saw fear on every face. These powerful aliens, these rulers of star systems, were afraid of her, a small, broken human girl in a hover chair. It was almost funny. "I do not command," she said. "He is not my weapon or my pet. He is my friend. There is a difference." "Then why is he here?" another council member demanded. This was in general someone used to fighting and winning. "Why does he follow you? What power do you have over him?" Was quiet for a moment, then she answered. "When I was thrown into the pit, I was ready to die. I was alone and afraid, and I had lost everything. But I did not beg for my life. I did not scream or cry or try to run. I looked at the monster in the darkness and I told him to just kill me if that was what he wanted. I was tired of being afraid." The chamber was silent. Everyone was listening. Had been alone for 300 years. The drugged him and used him and made him kill people he did not want to kill. No one had ever talked to him. No one had ever asked his name. No one had ever tried to help him. He was a weapon, not a person. His voice was steady now, not loud but clear. "I climbed his body with arms that ache and legs that do not work. I spent 4 days removing a device from his neck with nothing but a sharp rock. I freed him because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted power, not because I wanted revenge, because he needed help and I could help him." She looked directly at the general who had questioned her. "That is the power I have over him. I was kind to him when no one else was. I saw him as a person when everyone else saw him as a monster. That is all. That is everything." The general had no response. Neither did anyone else. Finally, the speaker spoke again. "What do you want of Earth? Land, wealth, power? The council will give you much to keep the peace." Shook her head. "I want you to free the slaves the kept. I want you to help the species that were conquered. I want you to remember that strength is not just about weapons and armies." She paused. "I want you to remember that a crippled child and a lonely dragon brought down an empire, not with hate but with friendship, not with force but with compassion. Remember that when you deal with humans in the future, we are small, we are fragile, we break easily, but we do not give up, we do not stop trying, and we do not leave our friends behind." Outside roared, but it was not a roar of anger this time. It was something else: agreement, pride, joy. Through their bond, he sent his own message to everyone in the chamber. His thoughts pressed into 100 alien minds at once. "For all my centuries, I never understood what courage truly was. I thought it was strength. I thought it was power. I thought it was the ability to destroy those who oppose you. I was wrong. Courage is a child with broken legs who climbs a dragon's back to set him free. Courage is choosing mercy when rage would be justified. Courage is looking into the darkness and saying, 'I am tired of being afraid.' The humans taught me this. A species you dismissed as weak and primitive showed me what it truly means to be strong. So I stay with them, and I suggest you remember this lesson when you deal with humanity in the future." The chamber remained silent for a long time. Then slowly the general stood up. He walked to and looked down at her small form in the hover chair. For a moment, everyone thought there might be violence. Instead, the massive warrior bowed deeply. "My people respect strength," he said. "Today I have seen the strongest person I have ever met. She is a 13-year-old human who cannot walk. One by one, other council members stood and bowed as well. The crystalline observers, species that had ignored humanity, species that had watched get thrown to her death without objecting. Now they understood. After the council meeting, returned to her father, was waiting with the other freed humans from the colony ship. They were building a temporary camp, starting to organize, starting to hope again. Floated down from back and into her father's arms. "I am proud of you," said softly. "Your mother would be proud too." "I miss her," admitted. "I miss her every day." "So do I," held his daughter close. "But she is still with us. Everything good in you came from her, your kindness, your courage, your stubborn refusal to give up. That is her legacy." Above them spread his wings against the alien sky. He was free for the first time in 300 years. He could go anywhere. He could search for others of his kind. He could explore the universe that had been stolen from him. But he did not leave. He stayed with the humans, because they had shown him something he had forgotten existed. Hope. And that was worth more than all the stars in the galaxy.